Zon Carvalho, you've been on this show. We discussed setting goals. We discussed feeling deserving of things. You've had this crazy life where international model in your teens, you ended up starting your own apparel company because you went to art school. You had the ability to live off of family money. You turned your back on it so you could do your own thing. You were literally driving down the wrong turn while in Ohio. You see this advertisement for art school, and that leads you to going to art school.
Yeah, I drove through the campus, and it was like photography and sculpture studios, and I was like, where am I? And next day I went over there to see what I needed to do to join the art school, to learn how to do what that was. And
because you had no previous
No.
training, you weren't an artist.
No, I never. I didn't take. First of all, I never went to high school, so there's not like I could have taken art in art school.
Right.
There was no such thing. And in Brazil, there wasn't a thing either about art. That was like I don't know. It was something that you did in school. You know what I mean? Like for kindergarten, stuff like that. And so I was never exposed as a kid or anything to anyone that was an artist, that lived as one, or, as in fine art. You know what I mean? Like at all. So that was never even in the scope of possibilities, for me to become. And when I drove through that art school and I had a chance to like see some stuff, and the next day I went over there and I was like, this is awesome. And the original reason I came to the United States was for computer graphics. However, in 1990 there was no computer graphics. There was even like Pixar was just starting. So the closest thing that I could find to it was photography. Because I figured that's composition, it's cameras and stuff is closest to the movies or closest to animation and stuff.
Right.
And ended up that I never even took photography. I was really good at three-dimensional building things, and I went to the industrial design, like with the idea of designing products to be manufactured. So it was a lot of technical things and stuff. So painting, all of the fine art part of it, I was not interested in it whatsoever. I was drafting, I was drawing things to be manufactured. We're doing vacuum forming, you know what I mean? Like designing furniture and stuff that was not about fine art. So like I did not enjoy my oil painting classes and none of that because it was dirty and it was messy. And ironically enough, I don't have a single piece of clothing nowadays without paint all over it.
Right.
So that was really, it built the foundation, like for this art and stuff. And you know what? Now that I'm talking, it wasn't the classes or the art or this and that. It was the fact that the school had the highest dropout rate during freshman year. Over 50% of students just quit because they couldn't do it. We had like 60 hours a week of fucking homework alone. Plus classes, a full-time schedule. And nobody slept, it was like, and they were preparing us for the real world. This is not about your final when you work harder, when it's that time. We work hard every day. I don't know how many times we'll show up in class at 8 o'clock in the morning, being up all night doing the homework. And then the teacher tears you apart, just literally because the grading is a critique. And your pieces are in front of the whole class. And the teacher walked around throwing them on the floor, the ones that he didn't like. Didn't matter how much time I had spent on it or what I learned. Bad. That thickened up the skin really quick, and also set a standard of learning what is needed, how much time is really needed to create something. It's not an hour-long math class. You're in a 3-hour studio class, that is lasting for 6 months. So that was the important part for me during art school, that showed me what it was needed to become a professional. That the reason that the people didn't make it is because they quit. It wasn't because they weren't good enough to do it. And I was like,
And you have no quit in you.
No quit for certain things, you know what I mean? But yeah, so it was that, you know, that has driven me over and over again, you know, to stay up later and wake up early. You know, like you go into my social media, I don't know how many times I'm going live at 5 a.m., you know, or 3 a.m. or at 11 p.m., you know, because that's what it takes. For me, it takes, like I say, that I live my life like a method actor. You know, you have to embody it. Being an artist is not a profession, it's a lifestyle. You're never off. Everything is about creation. Everything is about creativity. Everything, I mean, the idea can come at any time and place and anything, you know? So that has been the ultimate driving factor, you know, that has put me into this place that I am now, that I'm really starting to see and feel the beginning of the results that I've been looking for.
Yeah, you've been at art for 30 something years. Mm-hmm. You have gorgeous paintings. We fanboy over that stuff on off camera, whatever. Mm-hmm. We love your artwork at zonhq.com.
Yep.
So if somebody wants to go look at your stuff, they can look at it there. They can purchase it there. Mm-hmm. We'll have Brandon throw some of your paintings up right now.
Nope, I'm not going to do that.
So all that being said, like, you've been at it for 30 something years. You've carved out your way as an artist to be able to make a living from this. Mm-hmm. What is your process like when you're going into that?
Just effing do it. You know what I mean? That has been literally everything. That one of the most impactful things that I've done, that I feel like has really created a rapid impact in my life. I made a goal in February 7th, whatever it was, the beginning of this year, that I was going to paint 2,025 pieces of art. You know, there was a challenge that was thrown on the air when I was live on Instagram. The guy's like, why don't you just do 2,000 pieces? Because I was like, what's my next goal? What am I going to do? And I was like, sounds great. Let's go. Completely madness, you know? Yeah. However, what I've recently learned is that when you set a goal that seems impossible, you know, there is something that comes into place. Again, like the noise should be put away. You know, the goal becomes something that is like everything. So we're at the end of the year, and so far I do not have 2,025 pieces of art that are created. However, I have thousands of stories, videos, reels, and paintings that were created to support that goal. And the most impactful thing that I found, it was when people create, there is a place, there's a time where the art is horrible. There's that it sucks, and during that time there is resistance. So there is a resistance to start creating because you know you're going to face that obstacle. There is a resistance to overcome that obstacle because you don't know what the other result's going to be, you know. And there is a resistance of time. Do I have the time to be doing this? So I committed myself, and I was doing like between 5 to 15 paintings a day, you know, like literally, like just from morning to dawn, you know. Dude. And the best thing about it, man, it wasn't like the paintings that were coming out and stuff. It was the rhythm that I got myself into. Now, I was be able to identify that this art sucks, period. You know, I knew when I entered it, I was like, oh man, here I am. This is that time that is going to suck, and will last 15 minutes until it started to look like it's mine. It started looking like my styles. It started looking like, oh, okay, now I got you. I'm going to start shaping you and playing with you and stuff, you know?
So instead of weeks and months of being that, you were forced to just simply surrender and move on in the same day.
Yeah.
Within the same hour sometimes. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, how many times I would walk by paintings before and they're stuck into they suck stage for weeks because I was like, oh man, I don't want to, you know, because at that time, the doubts that come into your mind is like, I suck as an artist. Why am I even doing this? This is horrible.
All the head trash.
Everything. Yeah. You know, however, from doing so many of them in a row, that 15 minutes became 10, and then it became 5. It's still at 5,
Sure.
in stuff. However, that was the thing, because when I entered that project, that piece that I was doing, now I had less resistance, and I was so much more sure about entering that place, because I knew that in 5 minutes I was going to be on the other side of it. However, it took me 125 paintings to figure that out, to get to the other side of it. You
And
know what I mean?
that's kind of calling back to the volume 2, that the Zon volume 2 that we did, where we were discussing taking a shower, right?
Right.
It's the same thing, in as much as you brought it down to this smaller time frame, and it's now just this thing that happens.
Yeah. And excuse me. And another thing that was interesting from doing this experiment, it wasn't just necessarily the art. It was what I noticed one day. I was at the grocery store, and I was shopping, and I needed salsa. I normally spend a little bit of time picking, which kind. Is it hot? Is it mild? I want a cantina style. That day I walked to it, I grabbed it, and I put it in a cart. And then I was like, whoa, what just happened? That decisiveness that I was putting into my art, it was showing up in other places in my life.
That's a very interesting notice. That's a really, really pivotal, and powerful
Absolutely.
notice about
Yeah.
your own behavior and how that was affecting your life outside in a very positive way.
Yeah.
And yes, it's something as simple as the salsa. That's not the point.
Totally.
The point is this is what I want, prioritizing exactly what is specific to you in that moment, and then moving on to the next thing without any BS, without any burning any time. So you could prioritize that time that you might have wasted. That is really interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool. I totally remember, it was like that muscle memory of that certainty that I know that in 5 minutes, this is going to be awesome, and over and over and over and over again, like he created this conviction, this certainty about, I know what I want, and I'm going in, and I got it.
Well, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
And then on
Practice is
top
how you
of that,
perform.
yeah. And on top of that, you're getting those senses of, I can complete tasks. I don't need to be stuck in analysis paralysis. I don't need to just be staring. I know what I want, and I'm going after it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the huge overarching goal of 2,000 paintings in a year, it's not a fear of, well, that's too much for anyone to do. It's, well, let's just go balls to the walls and see how far I can get. And if I get there, awesome, goal completed. And if I don't, well, let's see what I've learned on the way.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
that takeaway, that's huge. That, I think, to me, my takeaway from that is that shrinks this massive overarching goal so much.
Absolutely.
Because now it's, yes, that is definitely my point B. That's where I want to go. But it's also helping me zoom out of the whole thing to see what else is going to happen for me because I'm not afraid to do something that is seemingly impossible in the moment.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really powerful.
Yeah. And, so that created this habit, of creating constantly creating, numbering the pieces, photographing the pieces, documenting the process. So that was happening online. My screen time is about 10 hours a day on my phone. I work on it. I am posting videos from the moment I wake up until I go to bed. My things are there, and this habit, that got created in 2020 and stuff, on going live all the time, and that muscle memory of being comfortable in front of the camera and all of these things, progressed into the point that recently, about 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, well, let's call it 3, I went on my story, and I was like, come on, guys, this is holiday season. You guys are wanting to buy art, the best gift to give to somebody. Hit me up right now. Let's go. You're looking for a commission, stuff. Things takes time to do it. And my intention was to empower people and motivate them to go purchase my artwork on my website. However, I just got recently signed with an agent in New York, a company that manages artists, and takes care of them, helps us grow agents. They find opportunities that we don't know. And the agent was the one that saw this story. Well, tons of people saw it. However, the agent reached out and said, I just saw your story. Let's go. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Meanwhile, we're still working on my press kit, on all the branding stuff. We're using development and that. But that message was so powerful that she called me and said, let's go. I have this project for this big chain store that I'm not going to mention, that let's jump in it. Let's see what you can do. Less than 5 days later, the products, the licensing deals were done, the products were manufactured, and they're live on this big store website. You know what I mean? So again, it's like, you don't know the ripples that you're going to create. I didn't know the ripples I was going to create. I wanted somebody to buy a painting or a print or something. Next thing you know, I am in a giant, box store, like a Target, a Bloomingdale's, a Walmart, if you will. You know what I mean? One of them. Why? How did that happen?
Because you prepared yourself to receive a ridiculous challenge of 2,000 paintings in 1 year. So it's not just that person said something completely ridiculous. You're actually in a place because you had set those smaller goals, achieved them, created some sort of a mindset where a completely arbitrary, impossible to reach goal wasn't something that you would just brush off. You're like, sure, why not? So you were prepared to receive that, and then what was created that followed behind that's its own amazing story by itself.
Yeah.
Because in that circumstance, I probably been like, okay, cool, 2,000 paintings, bye, and just never thought about it again.
Yeah.
Instead you're like, cool, that's ridiculous, let's do that.
Yeah, and that was like another thing that led up to, all of a sudden, I was more confident to do open calls, so open calls that people would like say, submit your artwork, and you might pick you for this show. A month ago on First Friday, I was downtown, and within a 2-mile radius, I had 8 paintings showing in 4 different locations. That was awesome.
Sounds like you're taking over, Zon.
You know what I mean? That was perfect. That was it. I was like, okay, here we go. And now what? I don't go back home and rest on my merits or anything like that. I'm still working. 5 o'clock in the morning, I left the show. I went home and painted until whatever time. That's the thing, I love doing this so much and now that, because there is, success is when opportunity meets preparation, or preparation meets opportunity. I'm prepared. I'm in place. I am ready to deploy. The orders came in, take care of it, do it. And that's the part of it that I was like just blown away. And in the same place, it's just like, okay, well, that's the obvious thing that would happen, because if I try to go to a licensing deal with artwork and approach a big store, a big chain store, I have to go through the buyer. There's a whole thing, Next thing you know, I was like, okay, well, how are we going to contact the store's buyers and stuff? She's like, oh, we don't need you. We are already there. And I'm like, she's like, I hope you don't mind that this is so easy because we work with this company and stuff. It's like, universe, show me how easy it can be. You know what I mean? So who knew from one story that I said something, somebody heard it, inspired them, they reached out, and together we achieved this goal that it's part of my bucket list. And as I was sharing this with a friend of mine, he's like, Zon, you told me this a year ago, that this was going to happen, that this was a goal of yours. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. I was like, when? I mean, where were we? And he's like, I was driving. He explained where he heard it. He remembered, and I didn't remember. So that's even cooler, that it's like, things are, if you believe it, if you commit yourself to it, if you, put the discipline into it and cut the noise, it could come from, anywhere. Like it could come from somebody in New York that says, let's go. Okay. And ever since then, like I just came back from delivering a painting. Yesterday, I delivered a painting to someone else. You know, it's going. That was like my very first Black Friday sale ever. You know, I've been trying to do this for every year. You know, this year I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it because it might just work this time. And yesterday I was leaving the grocery store and I heard that my favorite noise in the world was when my Shopify processes an order and it goes like cha-ching, you know, and I was like, oh, what is it? And I looked at it and it was like a number with a comma. And I was like, what? Like who, what, when, what, which piece?
Well, so somebody once told me the harder you work, the luckier you become, right? And that's a big part that I see. Obviously, you're talented, right? But the talent comes from the hard work as well.
Right.
You're getting your reps in. You're doing all of the things that you have to do to be that talented artist. And you're doing all of the side hustle stuff to be, I mean, it's entrepreneurship, regardless of what anybody wants to say.
It's a lifestyle. You know, that's what I said, like that method acting. This is what's necessary for me, you know, to survive and to succeed. You know, there is no plan B, period. You know, because if there is a plan B, you're already entering with scarcity in mind. You're already entering the challenge with like, okay, well, if this doesn't work, I have that. Okay, well, let's burn the ships. You know, let's see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And again, so, you know, to go back into the idea on episode 2 that we talked about the showering, or volume 2 that we talked about showering, the little, you know, this is it, man. It's like the little things that we do repeatedly, all of a sudden they fill up the chicken's belly. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. Grain by grain, they get satiated, you know? Yeah. And that was the thing, you know, what is it? Is it the drawings? Is it the books that I'm listening? Like, there was not one thing. It's all of them. You know, it was a combination of everything. Is the stuff that I put in my mind, the stuff I put in my mouth, the stuff that I do at the gym, the stuff that everything, what I'm painting, how I talk to my kids, everything, you know, that's what it causes. So there's not like a magic pill or one thing that is going to do it. They all do it as long as you're committed to each one of them with the same level of like intensity of, you know what I mean?
But just get started.
Conviction. Get started. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what it is. Brush your teeth. Great. You raise the floor a little bit because yesterday you didn't, you know, or is it you shower every day? Great. Is it you learn a new language? Is it you get an Audible subscription and start listening to a book a month, you know, or every couple of months until it's one a week? You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, just get moving.
Right. The success formula is the right person at the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. You have created that reality for yourself. ZonHQ.com, your Instagram, your Facebook, they're all growing. The sales are coming in. Mm-hmm. What's next?
World domination. Yeah, for real. I feel that 2026 is going to be a really big year, you know, and I just listening to this book called The Science of Scaling, and I got really inspired to set an impossible goal. Because an impossible goal would be, I've been trying to figure that out.
You haven't set it
I haven't
yet.
Figured it out yet. I just listened to the book. What?
2,000 paintings in 1 year.
That was an impossible goal.
Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, 2026 is coming up.
Oh, the
so
next
it's a new
right.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you chop wood, carry water, bud. Let's go.
That's it, man. And I think it would be like, I don't know, like sell $1 million worth of art. You know, that seems a pretty, I don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? So perfect.
Yet.
Which is beautiful.
And if you don't set the goal, how are you going to figure it out?
Exactly. It's like, let's go. Yeah. You know, I don't know how to do it. Great. Because I know if I want to sell twice as many paintings, I probably just work twice as hard. But if I want to sell $1 million worth of art, I have no idea how to do it.
You also didn't know how to do graphic design. You also didn't know how to drive down the right way in Ohio. And look what that led to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just the willingness to jump in there. You know, would I sell $1 million by December 31st of 2026? Fuck yeah, you better believe it. You know, if I get you 999,000, I'll be calling you to sell a painting to you for a cent, and then let's go. You know what I mean?
I should have a cent by then.
Yes, there you go.
I'll start saving now.
But that's the idea. So the impossible goal, you know, you either be that, or the other one that I thought about. There is like this really big art show. It's like the Super Bowl of art that happens every year in Miami. It's called Art Basel, and I always had this dream of having like being represented by a reputable gallery and having a sold out show at Art Basel.
If you sold $1 million worth of your own art this year, do you think you might have an invitation to that spot?
Absolutely. Yeah. Or can I sell $1 million while I'm there also?
Well, I mean,
You know what I mean?
two things could be true at the same time. You don't
Absolutely.
have to have one goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, you know, how awesome would be to sell a painting for $100,000? You know, that would be incredible. Like, that's a goal. You know, that is a goal, you know, to have that.
I mean, you say it would be incredible, and I think that kind of denotes that it's not something that could happen.
Yeah.
It is credible.
It is incredible.
No,
Absolutely.
it's credible.
Oh, credible. Sure.
You could do it.
Yeah.
So just do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's Zon.
That's it right there.
That's been my experience of you the last almost 2 years, is that
Yeah.
you just I'm just Zon, and I'm just doing stuff at a very, very high level.
Yeah.
It's really, really been quite inspiring to be around.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for not being a douchebag.
So if somebody wants to pick up some of your artwork that you've already created, or they want to commission,
ZonHQ.com is my website, at ZonHQ on Instagram. Those are the main ones. You can just Google Zon art, and I'm sure you'll find me, ZonHQ, and you find it.
How do you spell Zon?
ZON.
that's ZON for those over the pond.
Yeah.
Across the pond.
Yeah.
Over the pond,
Zulu
across-
Oscar Nancy.
We're wrapping it up, and you got to start this right now.
I can edit it whenever I like, however I like. You're going to be a duck this entire episode.
So
I'm looking at the camera so a bill can be on me.
I just might.
yeah, and I really
Folks, don't work with your friends. Sorry, what?
Great advice.
Yeah, I mean what I like about the artwork is the stories that tell. You know, the stories that they tell. I have recently recorded several hours of video to send to my agency in New York to be spliced and put into the vision that we have for the future. And so I'm excited to share that. I'm excited to share those stories, you know. So as people go to the site, they see a piece, they want to know the story is there, you know, DM me, you know, like email me. You want to know more about it? You want to know why this, or you want to get more in depth with it? Absolutely. This is what I live for. I love talking about, you know, what this means to me and what can it mean for someone else too.
Zon, appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me.
It's been
man.
amazing.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Clap out.
All right.
Damn it.
I got the last clap today, boys.